All right, and here we are. This is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams, and we are back. Here we are. We are back. This is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams. Very excited about today's podcast. We have a great guest with us, Clint Nolen. Clint is the managing partner and co-founder with Kalterra Capital Partners. Clint, thanks for coming on. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Clint's a good friend, client, and we've known each other for a few years now, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah. So it's 2023. It's what were we saying, the best year in real estate ever before the show?
Yeah. Well, if it looks like I'm scratching my eyes or my eyes are watering, it's not because of the commercial real estate market, although it should be. I'm trying out contacts again for the first time in 20 years. So,
yeah, I guess you're normally in spectacles, huh?
Yeah, typically at the computer, but I figured I'd give it a go again. So.
Is this a vanity thing or?
No, gosh, no.
Because you look good.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, I don't mind glasses too much, but I'm either coaching teams with my boys or playing with them quite a bit or trying to play pickleball, with the wife. And so I just would rather, if I could do something without glasses.
Better than having the elastic band or the Horace Grant goggles
strap on. Yeah, absolutely.
That would actually be pretty cool. I'm sure your kids they wouldn't be embarrassed by that.
It could be cool. I don't think that I could pull it off. So.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, no, it's an interesting year in real estate for sure.
It has been. It has been. So, Clint, tell our listeners what y'all do at Kalterra specifically.
We're a merchant developer of apartments. So we develop, we entitle, design, develop, construct, lease up, and sell ground up multifamily, primarily in the secondary and tertiary markets. We really love the I-35 corridor, so we spend a lot of time focusing on developments in and around the DFW Metroplex, as well as in and around Central Texas. So, Kyle, Texas, San Marcos, Texas, San Antonio, DFW, Grand Prairie, Princeton, Euless, Hudson Oaks, Waxahachie.
Yeah.
So. We really, it's not that we're opposed to doing something that's more urban infill, but we've kind of found our niche in those markets that are 30 to 45 minutes from a major city center, in the path of growth, good demographics.
Right.
And so,
why is that type of area y'all's niche versus, is it less competitive or is it just kind of where y'all feel comfortable?
Yeah, so everything's competitive right now,
right?
But perhaps less competitive. As far as when we came into the business, we officially put our business plan together in 2015, hung the shingle in early 2016. Myself and the two other co-founders, we all had pretty deep backgrounds in development. If not specifically multifamily, other types of development. And so we had a lot of depth in development, but at the time that we were coming into the marketplace, getting into the acquisitions and value add game, which we did have history and experience in, it didn't make a lot of sense. It was highly competitive. Same thing with urban infill, very competitive. We felt like there was a lot of markets that were not being looked at by, your bigger guys, if you will.
Right.
That we felt like, had a lot of runway. Demographics were great, employment, statistics were great. And we, as we all know, the city has continued to expand out and out. We're getting people.
All the cities, right?
All the cities, right? We're blessed to be in Texas. You've heard that.
True.
We're blessed to be in DFW, Central Texas. And so, in 2016, when we started developing in areas like Waxahachie, everyone thought we were crazy.
Right.
Not everyone, there was others, but not many, right? Most folks thought we were crazy. A lot of our equity that we were raising by the time we were ready to construct in 2018, it took a lot of explaining, right? It took a lot of thesis to...
Like why Waxahachie? They just couldn't wrap their head around it?
Right. But Waxahachie has been... such a fantastic place to develop and do business. The city's been amazing. The local neighbors, community surrounding us have been fantastic, and the projects have been outstanding. We've overperformed our expectations for our investors. Our investors are our number one customers, so
Right.
if we're not making them happy and doing a good job for them, then we're not in business. So,
What makes Waxahachie attractive today? Is it school systems, proximity to Dallas, all the above?
all of the above. I mean, exactly what we thought would happen has happened, right? The Dallas has continued to grow and expand with all the influx of people coming in from other states.
Right.
They've got to have somewhere to go, and as we all know, I mean, the closer into downtown Dallas, the more expensive it is to live. There's outstanding schools in the suburbs. There's
Right.
outstanding, job opportunities. And Waxahachie just happened to be kind of right in there, where you have a lot of great, medical professionals,
Right.
Industrial industry, and
There's a lot of
fantastic.
industrial down there, isn't there?
There is, yeah. And the schools are outstanding, right? So
Right.
we found and went ahead and acquired 3 separate multifamily tracts, all adjacent to each other, that fell, right near a major sports complex for Waxahachie. That's just a phenomenal attraction. Movie theater, an outstanding, local church that a lot of local, folks in Waxahachie attend. Elementary school, junior high, high school. So just really well located. I think there was a lot of questions and concerns when multifamily was first coming into the area that we were in, because it's all new construction. I mean,
Right.
where we are, it's all new, mid-range, mid to high-end single-family construction. And I think there was a lot of unease and unrest at first. I think once we finished
Yeah.
our first project and they saw the quality of what we build, it was a very different story for phase 2 and 3.
Yeah, because Waxahachie, I remember driving down through there before, because I was in the Army National Guard, so I always went through Waxahachie as I was driving down to Round Rock, and I mean, it was kind of I don't know what the right word, kind of a tired old
Yeah,
town. It
sleepy
wasn't
maybe.
a lot of new stuff, so
Yeah, it's
So-
changing.
yeah, I bet it is. I
Yeah,
haven't been down
it's
there.
changed, and it continues to change. And the city, they're one of those cities that I think if you communicate well and you do things the right way, they're a fantastic city to work with and to develop with. They've been a fantastic partner. I think they have appreciated the fact that we try to get out, before we ever put pen to paper and start designing our projects, we try to get out and start talking to the local community, pull them into design discussions before, kind of on a blank slate basis. Communities appreciate that. And then by the time we're bringing it to the city, it's not like we've got folks with picket signs and axes
Right.
behind us. It's quite the opposite. They're usually coming, to champion the project, and it makes the city's job a lot easier.
They're happy to see the growth around
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. So,
So, like, we know, what drove that. A lot of people moving to Dallas. So, I mean, we're not, we're not landlocked by oceans or mountains and those things. So everything's going north, south, east, and west of Dallas. Are we still seeing the influx of population growth coming into Dallas, even in these slower times? Have y'all seen
are.
that? So y'all seen that hadn't slowed up any, no matter, regardless of what the economy's doing. People are still coming here.
I
Could exacerbate it, maybe.
Maybe it's slowed a little, but not much. I mean, it's still happening. I also, my wife has a business on the single family side of things, and that's not changed, right? The majority of her buyers, I wish it wasn't this way, but the majority of her buyers right now are out of state folks
Right.
still. So I
Still
think
coming
it's
to Texas.
still coming to Texas. So that hasn't changed. The supply deficit that started growing, rapidly after the last, 08, 09 recession. It literally just barely, if you look at the numbers, it just started to turn the corner, and we just started to see some improvement on that growing deficit. And I think Q1 of this year, and what's happening right now is only going to turn that curve, south again,
Right.
and exacerbate the problem even more.
So we all know interest rates have gone up, right? Which is our favorite thing to talk about. We'll get there. But, for the person moving here that's, from out of state. They gotta find a place to live. I couldn't imagine being a home buyer right now, knowing where interest rates were and where they are now. That really brings down buying power. But with people still coming in and harder to buy a home just for affordability reasons, what's that doing to the multifamily market? It seems like that's
Well, I think intuitively it's gonna help, right?
right.
I think right now we're seeing rents hold strong. I wouldn't say that they're still growing at the pace that they were a year or even 2 years ago, but rents are still strong, and I can't see that changing. And thank goodness we need rents to hold.
Are they not growing because they've grown so much, and I mean it's just people just can't afford more?
I think, and again, I'm not an economist. I'm forced to understand a little bit about economics, being in the business that I am. But my gut is that I just like a lot of investors out there, and equity investors who typically invest in development and construction of what we
Right.
do. I think homeowners, I think renters, I think everyone is just hitting the pause button right now and
Right.
just holding. I think there's a lot of fear and just unease about doing anything right now, and so I think that's a little bit of what's kind of
Right.
slowed things down.
Is it the interest rates rising that's contributing to that fear?
I
you
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think.
I mean,
there's-
when the Fed says employment's too good, let's raise the rates again.
yeah.
That's a weird thing to say.
Right. It's a strange message. I think there's a lot of people concerned. I mean, especially those of us who lived through 08, 09, right? Very
Right.
uneasy, unsure times. And so you have a lot of, I think, renters, nervous about making the next move and
Right.
signing
Going into that
signing that
purchase.
lease, right?
Or
not
the
knowing
lease.
not knowing whether they're going to have a job, in a month, 2 months from now.
Right.
How far is this going to go? How much pressure do they want to apply?
Well, they make it sound like they want us to lose our jobs. Like,
Well,
when everybody's losing their job, then we'll stop raising the rates.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So sticking with the rates, what has that done to y'all in trying to, continue to add more communities, around the state? Are y'all able to still perform?
well, it's made it extremely difficult. So, are we able to still perform? I mean, I think like a lot of other merchant developers, again, we're a merchant developer. What that means is, we're not in the business of developing properties, leasing them up, and then holding them for, 10, 20, 30 years. We typically, we'll find a tract of land, get it entitled if necessary, design it, finish out the development, construct it, lease it up, operate it perhaps for a year, to make sure that it's stabilized, and then we'll take it to market and sell it. Right. So, by nature, our business is much more cyclical than other types of developers. And so we're fortunate that we closed construction loans on 5 projects at the end of 21 and then in 2022. And, capital
Rates were
markets
still better,
Yeah,
right.
rates were good. Capital markets were free and flowing. And, we would put a package out, and when I say put a package out, we would do a podcast or a, kind of a Zoom call with prospective investors, and we would be fully subscribed by the end of that call.
Wow.
Right. And today that's very different.
It's almost like this is easy.
Right. No,
Right.
It was great. And so today it's very different. We're glad that we have those in construction, but those are starting to finish up. We're starting to lease up those properties, get them in the door. In the next 1-2 years, we'll take those to market and dispose of them. But in the meantime, we've got a heavy pipeline, that we have done a great job. Our development team has done a phenomenal job entitling those tracts, designing them, and we don't typically raise outside capital for pre-construction costs. So we take on all of that on ourselves.
Right.
So we have a pipeline of 7 deals, 6 really that are either shovel ready or soon to be shovel ready that it's very difficult to raise capital for right now.
Right. Especially with that amount that you have to raise capital for.
That's right. Right. And, we're not large by any means. We've got a team of 19 people, primarily, development, capital markets, acquisitions, back office, and then construction group. We self-perform on our projects. And, if we're not, if we're slowing down on development or we're not constructing projects, that becomes a problem pretty rapidly.
Yeah. So is it harder to sell those projects once you get them leased up now, or is that still?
Yeah, I would expect so. Right, anytime interest rates rise, that they're going to put pressure on cap rates.
Right.
Cap rates determine, what kind of price tag you're going to get on that property.
Right.
And so rising cap rates is not so great for groups like us. And so, I fortunately we're not in a position where we have to sell. And so, I would speculate that we're not selling any of these properties next year, perhaps even the year after that, because it might not make sense to do so. We might be selling at somewhat of a discount. Maybe not, right?
But you can hold on to them and collect rent until
we can recapitalize, hold on to them if we have to,
right?
And wait until the market's a little bit better. So
sure. So biggest challenge sounds like it's generating that equity to move to construction on some of these sites that y'all been working on.
It is, yeah, absolutely. So,
so how do you change your messaging, or how do you put people at ease that, hey, this is, because I mean, for me, it's still real estate's a much better investment than anything I've seen out there. I mean, we all have money in stocks and bonds and all those types of things, but I mean, all they ever say about the stock market is it's about to go up in flames, and of course they've been saying that like every single year. So
now I'm less worried about competing with stocks and equities than I am about competing with. I mean, I saw it when we walked in the lobby here. You can go get 5% on a liquid savings account right now. So, I think we're competing more with that, than we are with anything else. But no, the fundamentals and the thesis for real estate, specifically multifamily, and specifically in Dallas and Central Texas and within Texas, it's all still there, right? The thesis is still there. We still believe in it. That's still easy to sell.
Right.
It's, I think that the challenge is underwriting standards, right, from the banks have tightened amidst the rising interest rates. And so instead of, 75, maybe even 80% leverage on a project, which makes your equity raise, reasonable, if you will, you're getting 55, maybe 60, right, at rates that are 2.5, almost 3x what they were, a couple of years ago. So leverage is lower. You're having to bring in, more creative capital. You might have preferred equity, mezzanine, before you're getting, to the common equity at the top of the stack. Sure. And so, and then, those equity checks that you're sort of passing the hat. When I say pass the hat,
now they got to be bigger and more
family,
of them,
much larger checks and more of them, right? So if you have we have 6 deals, 4 that we could have started this year, right? 2, 3 more next year. That's a lot of cash.
Yeah.
And so we're having to be more creative. You said what does our investors need to do? I don't know that our investors really need to do anything different. I think they could and should have the exact same return expectations that they did before. Right. I think they need to have that risk-adjusted, return expectation. I think it's on us as the developer to get a little bit more creative and open ourselves up to creative capital situations that we wouldn't have a couple of years ago, even if that means bringing in a co-GP partner, which we don't at this point need help on the development side of things. But if there's another developer that doesn't have deals, but they have access to capital,
right?
Hey, let's talk.
So like a JV opportunity at that point.
JV equity, right?
Right.
Wasn't necessary on, a year or 2 years ago, but hey, I would rather, not put projects on a shelf and just sit idle for the next year and a half. Our deals still underwrite. They're still great deals, right. And they're still in great locations, and I believe that they're going to perform well. And I know that in 2025 and 2026, when we have a huge supply deficit because of what's going on right now,
it has to be
right now. Right. I mean, if you're delivering at those times, I just cannot believe that you're not going to perform in an outstanding way. So
well, it just seems like the perfect storm for an issue with, where am I going to, we're moving to Texas, company's moving us here.
Yeah.
Okay, get here. God, it's really expensive to buy a house right now. And there's no inventory because nobody's selling their homes if you don't have to.
Yeah.
And I would assume that the new product and multifamily being delivered slower than it was a year or two ago, right?
Yeah.
So that's got to create a backlog of.
It has to, right? So I think everybody knows it, right? It's relatively intuitive, and I think there's going to be a outstanding runway for development of high quality multifamily for a good long while. I'm not worried about that. It's just the theme that I've heard going around the last couple of months is survive to 25, right? I mean we all think that this based on the monthly updates from the Fed, right? We think this could be as much of an 18-month, challenging environment. So, what do we need to do to position ourselves to survive, those 18 months until capital markets sort of free up again?
Now, is part of that an expectation that rates will go down, or is part of that just like there's a time delta that has to happen? I mean, it's kind of a shock when you raise rates as fast as they did.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't know even what to do with that. They're like,
yeah. I mean, I'm not an economist, but I think you're spot on.
Kind of an economist.
I think there's absolutely a shock, right? I mean, we're all in shock, especially when every month we're seeing a rise. And do I think that rates need to turn south and lower? Yeah, eventually, but I think more importantly, they just need to stabilize. To where all of the players that within a capital stack, right, sort of know what they're working with. That we all
you can't really stabilize when you don't know if they're going to do it again.
Right. It becomes very difficult to underwrite. I think that's the challenge right now. Everyone's a little bit nervous about underwriting a deal. Underwriting a deal meaning determining what we believe all the correct assumptions are.
Right.
In this very speculative game that we play. So I think just trying to figure that out and lock it down. I think if rates just stabilize, and even if they hold for a little while, that's okay.
Right.
But I'd also believe that there's going to be a lot of time that has to go beyond that, where things are going to have to normalize and kind of reset before things deals start flowing again.
Right.
So we've got
it's
some
the
time.
certainty factor, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Does the Fed ever actually say, we're not going to raise rates anymore? Do they say these things, or do we always have to try and read between the lines? Because I'm trying to think historically what the Fed says, and it's always like kind of a mixed bag or a smoke and mirrors kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if the Fed's ever said that. I heard it on Squawk Box today. There was actually a prediction that they're done.
That they're done.
Can't remember who it was, but this morning, they were speculating that I think enough damage, if you will, has been done, right? There's been enough punishment, and I think we can just pause and hold it here,
right?
And hopefully curb inflation and maybe start to see a reversal.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I mean, but it's. I mean, Jamie Dimon from Chase said something crazy a couple days ago that he thinks it's going to go even higher and higher.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yeah,
great.
but I mean,
wow. Smart dude, much smarter than I am. So.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see how smart he is. Hopefully, he's wrong.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, as we all know, I mean, these deals are difficult to underwrite right now. Material and labor costs.
Yeah, have those come down any
They have.
yet?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're seeing
That's
improvement.
good news.
Yeah, it is good news. I mean, they were at an all-time high. They're still high.
Right.
We're seeing improvement. I personally think that over the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see significant improvement because we have to.
I mean, some of the construction that's going on has to be it started before rates and some of those things went down. And so there's I guess there's some inertia there, right? Where it's going to keep going. So they, construction costs stay high, but I mean, you can look at all the numbers. Starts are down, permits are down. So
like 67% year over year.
So eventually it has to catch up, right?
It
And then
has
and then
to.
you got to a shitload of extra
Right.
lumber,
I mean,
you got to drop
enough
the cost.
time has to go by where, folks get desperate and hungry enough, I mean, and we're all getting squeezed, right? I mean,
Right.
And the deeper the development companies are, the more they're going to be able to withstand this, right? But the developers kind of get squeezed first. I used to work for an oil and gas company. I always like to make the analogy of, oil and gas. When you're $100 plus per barrel oil, it's like crack cocaine, right? I mean, the producers, they love it. They start cranking, right? As long as they have reserve. I mean, they're cranking it out, and all the downstream folks, they get privy pretty quick. It might take some time, right? The producers do really well at first, and then all the downstream guys start to say, hey, wait a minute, I want a piece of that. And you start to see inflation all the way down the stream. Hey, and as long as it works and everybody's, able to make money, great, until oil drops to $50 overnight, right? And guess what? The producers, just like the developers, are going to turn off the spigot. Just like we're going to put projects on the shelf, because obviously we're not going to develop something that doesn't make sense to develop.
Right. Well, that also in that business, that kind of thins the herd, doesn't it?
It does, but there's a lot of pain,
of course,
and heartache, probably more than is necessary. Right. Some is maybe a good thing and healthy, but probably more than is necessary, because right now I think you have a lot of good projects that do underwrite right now, that are getting put on the shelf, and they're getting getting put on hold, and that's just going to exacerbate, our housing need situation. Sure. I can't imagine, it's hard to believe that with the affordability, with the, crisis that we have right now in housing, even in Texas, which is still more competitive than most of the nation.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that rents can continue to grow at the rates that they were growing. So, financing costs, capital costs are at an all-time high. Insurance costs, because of some of what we've been dealing with in Texas, are at an all-time high. Hard. The one thing that we can make a dent on right now is material and labor costs. So we internally are spending a lot of times talking daily with our subcontractors and material suppliers to say, hey, look, we all need to actually break ground and construct these deals to make a living and do what we love to do. So work with us. How can we get some dollars out of these projects? And the sooner we can do that, the faster we can squeeze that gap, that timing, the better we all do. After 08, 09, I was doing a lot more in single family at that time, but it took a good 3 years. A lot of folks hold on for a long time because prices are sticky. I used to be able to charge, X, and prices hold. Same thing, land prices hold.
They're not moving.
They're not moving until there's enough until they do. And I was telling my group over the last couple of weeks. I mean, my wife develops a lot of luxury homes in the Preston Hollow area. I mean, land that was selling at $750, $785 a lot, all of a sudden dropped to $320, and
that's a huge drop.
Huge drop. And instead we had been quoting $200 a foot for, again, this was back then, to build, and all of a sudden we're able to build almost half of that. And it didn't last very long, right? It rode back
Everybody
up,
got back in.
But there was that trough where subcontractors were beating down our door and looking for work, and they were hungry, and material was aplenty and very affordable. And I think the same thing's going to happen, but I really hope it doesn't take 3 or 4 years to do that. So, hey, look, how can we proactively work together to kind of compress that a little bit, so we can all get back to doing what we want to do.
Yeah, hopefully it won't take that long. I mean, the 08, 09, that was a very large downturn across every sector.
Absolutely. Right. Well, and I think, the key differentiator, I think people were scared then, and you saw a lot of the same trends that we're seeing now, but I think the reason for being scared is very different than, I don't think it's not so much fear, it's just sort of uncertainty. And so just kind of sitting on the sidelines. Then it was like, hey, we've got a fundamentals problem. Mm-hmm. I think there was a lot of fear back then. I don't think we have a fundamentals problem. The fundamentals are there.
Right. So they didn't lend like they did the last time around. So tell us about some of your projects that you're working on right now. Y'all are Y'all are building. Y'all are under construction. Anything
We are.
exciting that y'all are going to be delivering?
Well, you're asking, you're asking me. I'm clearly biased, so everything is exciting. We have a phenomenal 55-acre mixed-use development in Grand Prairie at the corner of 161 and Forum Road. We are in just the next couple of weeks. We're going to be delivering the clubhouse and first units and start leasing that property up. That's 366 units, and that sits in the middle of, like I said, a larger 55-acre development that's going to have a lot of fantastic strip retail.
Yeah.
It's going to have 142 for-sale townhomes being built by CB who we partnered with on those lots.
Have those started?
They're about to start.
Okay.
We just all the horizontal and underground work is completed, and the pads are now build ready. So CB is about to get started on those, and that's extremely exciting. There's a daycare pad that's already been sold that should be starting construction here pretty soon. We're talking.
I think we closed that actually.
Oh, you did actually. Thank you. We are negotiating with two. We're actually working with the city and looking at two different entertainment uses to go on the northern end of the track. We've got contracts on a couple of hotel pads, so it's going to be a great development. We've got
that stuff's moving.
It is moving. Yeah,
So
it's moving. So we're very excited. That project's going to perform extremely well. We've got two under construction in Waxahachie. We've got a phase 2 to one that we built in 2018. The group that actually bought our 2018 build which was called Park Place Apartments. They didn't want to compete on the open market, so they actually came in ahead of time and pre-purchased phase 2.
Oh wow!
But it kept us on as the developer and the builder, and so we're mid-construction on that project. Very excited about finishing that one up, and then we have an active adult that's 55 and over property that is completed. We already it's about 40% leased, probably 37% occupied, and leasing almost double the rate than we projected in the beginning. So
is this y'all's first active adult or y'all?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It's our first one to deliver, and so far we really like active adult. Very proud of what we designed and what we built, and like I said, it's leasing up above pro forma right now, both on the rent side and rate of lease up. So
what is driving that? Is that because that demographic is very healthy as far as the amount of that active adult? Is that 55 plus?
It's 55 and older. It's right. So interestingly, the average age on a 55 and up is typically around the 70 mark, but it's
the average age of 55 and up is around 70.
Right.
No kidding.
We've actually, we've found that the average age is closer to 70. And again, I mean, these are just that. They're active adults. This is by no means assisted living. This is
right. Yeah.
This is really just age-restricted multifamily. That's high, more highly amenitized, air-conditioned corridors. Typically you have about double the square footage of common area and amenity space, air-conditioned corridors. Maybe a little bit higher end finishes, so your cost of construction is higher. But
higher rents though too.
Correct. Right. Yeah, you got higher rents to offset that. But to answer your question, we really like it. It's worked out exactly as we thought. Me and Nick Balsamo, who now runs development for Kalterra, he and I burned a lot of shoe leather, and we literally went all around Waxahachie, Midlothian to tour, any and all independent living and active adult sites in the area. Almost, I believe, actually at the time, every single one of them had an affordable component to it. So they weren't, they weren't Class A kind of luxury homes that really didn't exist. And
interesting.
And we believe that there was a lot of demand for it. I mean, there's a lot of great jobs, great income, great schools, great housing. And so we believed that, you've got a lot of empty nesters and grandparents who really want to live and be close to their grandchildren,
right?
And where they're going to school and where they're playing sports. But they want something that's truly lock and leave and low maintenance.
Yeah.
And it's turned out to be exactly that. A lot of folks moved to Waxahachie, bought a single family home near their children and their grandchildren, and then realized that they don't want the upkeep of the yard and of the house, but they still want to be close by. And they want to live around life and vitality.
So is that kind of, it sounds like something you want to rinse and repeat in these other major suburb areas, right?
So we're in design on one right now in Cedar Hill, which is going to be another active adult property flanked by some, strip retail, hopefully a lot of sit down restaurant, right at the north end of Cedar Hill, right as you come into Cedar Hill on Highway 67. So
Nice.
we're going to do it again. We want to do more of it. We really like it. And
Are there any challenges to doing the active adult versus a normal market rate
slow.
multifamily?
Pros and cons, right? Slower lease up. So your lease up tends to take a lot longer. I mean, you can imagine those folks really like to do their research and their due diligence, and they like to come back with their kids and grandkids and sisters and
A few more
brothers
showings,
and a
right?
few more showings, right? So it just takes a little longer, but they're stickier tenants. Once they come
Yeah.
in, they stay a lot
They're not
longer.
moving every year.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So your lease up takes a lot longer, but your turnover is a lot less.
Do they do longer leases in those?
They do.
They
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. The typical lease is a little bit longer, and it gets extended over and over. And so we're really pleased with that product. The other two in construction, one is in Kyle, Texas, right at I-35 and Kohler's Crossing. That's part of a 15.5 acre mixed use development that we did. And before we even broke ground on the multifamily, we had sold 100% of all the retail lots.
Wow.
And it's all restaurants except for I think one dentist. So outstanding restaurants, 266 units, 9 miles south of downtown Austin.
With all those restaurants, that dentist is going to be busy.
Yeah, I think it's a great site. Very excited about that one. And then we have phase 2 to a 2016 development, 2018 build. We sold it in 21, and we're now a little bit more than halfway through construction on its phase 2.
And that's active adult as well?
No, that's conventional. The only active adult in construction right now is Waxahachie, and
Okay.
then our second active adult is in Cedar Hill. That's in design right now.
Okay.
So
Nice. Now, are cities wanting that type of product, the active adult?
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think most cities, especially most neighbors who are going to be living adjacent to or nearby multifamily, they would prefer active adult than conventional multifamily. Primarily because they drive less. It's typically one car instead of two cars per family. They don't put pressure on schools.
Yeah.
And so I think, right.
That's a big deal right now.
Yeah, and I don't know that this is the case really in our properties. To date, we have focused primarily on Class A, luxury suburban product. But I was going to say, I generally, whether it's true or not, I think there's a perception that they take better care of their stuff and their properties. And so I think there's probably, that probably feels a little bit better to cities and neighbors. And they're, like I said, they're more highly amenitized.
Yeah. Is that a specific zoning, active adult versus multifamily?
It is. Yeah.
So they're partly the same, but then there's a differentiator with that active adult.
That's correct.
site.
Yeah, and it really depends on the city that you're working with and how they have that structured. Whether it's just a base zoning or whether there is a PD or a planned development overlay on that allows for not just multifamily but active adult. And then when you get that active adult, entitlement. You're typically able to negotiate some other things with a city because since they drive less and have fewer cars, your parking requirements are not quite the same.
Right.
You can afford less parking, which obviously allows for a little bit more density on the property.
Sure.
Perhaps setbacks don't need to be as extreme. So you're building since it's nice to have enclosed corridors where you can walk in air conditioning all the way around the
So
entire
it's got
building.
quite a bit different design.
Right. So the city's more apt to allow for a longer building and maybe even a fully connected kind of donut style building as opposed to several broken up buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, with the baby boomers hitting mass retirement and lower. Well, it's supposed to be a lower cost of living here. It's kind of going up, but it has to be an attractive market. And then with so many people moving here,
Yeah,
it should be
is.
something
It
y'all
is.
can do years to go.
I believe it. Yeah. And I think, again, I'm biased, but we have a outstanding team, phenomenal group of acquisitions folks and design folks that have very deep design expertise. And so, I come from a custom, build
Right.
and development background. And so my passion probably leans towards the design side. And so we like to think of each one of our projects as kind of a unique custom build. Obviously, there are some good learnings and some positive things that we want to take from, one property and repeat it, right, if it works. But we also want to make each project feel unique and custom and like it stands on its own and doesn't look like anything else you've seen.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
So y'all also have Kalterra Construction.
we do.
And
Yes.
what is Kalterra Construction doing? Are they building most of these
They
assets
are
for
so
you?
right. Yeah. So we officially started the construction company in 2019. Again, I come from a construction background. My grandfather was a banker and a land developer. My parents were both custom home builders,
Right.
and they built smaller homes but more volume. And so self-performing and having control over the team and the quality of construction was important to me. So we started the company in 2019, hired Chase Wood to be the president of that construction company. And
Yeah, Chase
and
is good people.
Good guy. So he has been building out that team. They are currently building all 5 of the projects that we have under construction under a joint venture general contractor relationship with Brownstone Group out of Houston.
Okay.
Once we finish those 5, and as we get into next year, they'll start self-performing more and more.
Doing outside projects, or are they going to stick with?
Right now, they're just building Kalterra products.
Sounds like y'all got enough work to go
Yeah,
around.
for
too.
sure, and we'd love to keep it that way. I mean,
Yeah.
by all means, if it makes sense, we're not targeting that right now. If it one day makes sense to do third-party work, then we're absolutely open to that. But we just wanted to really be outstanding
Right.
at that, and so we opted not to. Even though we have staffed the company with outstanding resumes and great, multifamily backgrounds and experience, we still recognize that Kalterra itself, had not GC'd or built some of these projects. And so that's why we wanted to do the joint venture. And we wanted to, so quite frankly, learn along with Brownstone and make sure that we were doing things the right way and taking on the right team members and just make sure that we were absolutely ready to go it alone.
Right. So is it more attractive to investors that you have the construction piece in-house?
I want to
Seems like it would be to
Yeah,
me.
I think so. Yes, I think I think for some the early discussions were maybe a little. I think there was a lot of questions. Well, tell me why that's better, right?
Right.
Why is there not a conflict of interest there? And so I think there's really an education, a lesson, and some teaching that has to happen during that capital raise. And they need to trust us as a developer. And I think whenever you explain to them that, look, everything that we do is open book. You can come in, audit us at any time.
Sure.
Right. The reason that it's better for you ultimately is because we're building our general contractor, our construction company is building these things at market rate. There's a whole lot less of this, and finger pointing that's going to happen, right? These projects are challenging. You're going to have issues. And when we have issues, we're sitting in the same office. And
Right. The real reason for the issue
we know
versus
the real reason
whatever
for the issue.
being-
There's no gray, there's no black box. It's like, look, let's get straight down to it and let's solve it and let's move forward.
Yeah.
And so, it feels much more like a team effort and a lot, less of finger pointing and he said, she said. And I think at the end of the day, our quality's better because of it. And I think one of the reasons the quality is better is because we're able to control the team that's on the ground.
Right.
So.
Well, congrats on the success y'all have had.
Appreciate it.
I've been watching for a couple years, 3-4 years now, what y'all been doing.
Well,
it's really exciting.
Thank you for your help along the way.
Absolutely.
It's been great.
We're happy to help. If people want to find you, if investors or, would like to know more about what y'all are doing, like where do you direct people?
Go to our website. We're kalterra.com, KALTERRA.com. Check us out. You can find us. There's a contact link on that page that comes to all of us.
Right.
And so the right person will get back to you if you have an investment specific question. If you're a subcontractor trying to get in touch with a construction company, you can find us there.
Nice. All your projects are on there, from what I can see.
Yeah, they should be. I hope so.
Yeah.
You know how websites are; they're constantly being added to and evolving. We're about to roll out. Actually, we've already started rolling out, but we're about to officially announce the launch of our brand.
Is that Arden?
It's Arden.
I was going to ask you about that, so
Yeah,
I noticed that.
Yeah, so not our active adult property, but everything else, all of our conventional development is going to be under the name of Arden. Very excited about that. We spent a lot of time and energy with the right outside group coming up with the brand and the name. And
so what's what's the genesis of Arden?
That's a whole nother podcast.
We'll have you back on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's do an Arden launch podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great. We would love to do that. But no, it's actually it's really neat how that came to be, and we're very proud of it. So
well, that's exciting. I noticed I was on your website just prepping a little bit, and I saw that, and I was like, that's something there.
Yep.
So
yeah.
All right. Well,
so
we'll leave a cliffhanger.
Yeah, there you go.
To have you back on to talk about that.
I like it.
It's Kalterra.com. Clint Nolen, managing partner and co-founder of Kalterra Capital Partners. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, that concludes us. We'll see you next time. Thanks.